We're ready? Are you ready? All right. We'd like to welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled meeting tonight. And we're going to go ahead and start with Pledge Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will continue with the roll call. Ms. Palacio.
Governing Board President Sherry Lowe.
Present.
Governing Board Clerk Denise Reese.
Here.
Governing Board Member Anthony Bruno.
Present.
Governing Board Member Raul Rodriguez.
Present.
Governing Board Member Dr. John Sparks.
Present.
District Administration Superintendent Dr. Manuel Valenzuela.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Scott Downs.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Darlene Robinson.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Brett Bonner.
Here.
Chief Financial Officer Lisette Huey.
Here. Thank you very much. We'll move on with the agenda, and we will approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. President Lowell, members of the board and public, I would recommend approval of the agenda this evening as it was revised.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Very much. Move on to approval of the minutes. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Lowell. Members of the board, in your packet this evening, you have draft copies of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the board back on October 23rd. And after your review and consideration, I do recommend approval at this time.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We move on to ratification of vouchers. Ms. Huey.
Good evening. Tonight, I recommend payroll voucher number 9 and no new payroll for a total payroll approval of $2,005,754.71. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 1032 to 1037 and no new expense vouchers for a total of expense vouchers of $1,818,357.04 and a grand total of $3,824,111.75.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report. Dr. Valenzuela.
Thank you, President Lowe, members of the board. I always enjoy sharing about the latest happenings around our district campuses and programs. But first, before I forget, I'd like to remind the board that tomorrow at 11 o'clock, for those that can make it, is the board lunch at Copperview. And I know it's already on Dr. Ralston's calendar because she already asked me about it. So I told her that we would be there in full force tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I would be remiss if I didn't seize the opportunity on this Veterans Day week to thank our own Mr. Rodriguez and all of our veterans for their service to our country. We certainly know that freedom is not free, and it takes the sacrifice and the commitment to service and country that all of these folks demonstrate. And these, if you notice the gentleman on the lower left, that is Mr. Rodriguez, but this was a statewide publication of veterans who are school board members. So they continue to serve. They're from all over the place. Several of them are from Pima County, but we're very grateful to all of them for their service. And speaking of that, I'd like to commend Principal Lizardi and her team at Wrights and Ridge. I had the opportunity to attend their annual Veterans Day recognition ceremony, and it was beautiful as always, with great song, patriotism stories. A great keynote speaker, Mr. Becerra, talked about his experiences as, I believe it was a soldier in the street, patrolling the streets of Iraq during some of those operations, that theater of operations. Very, very meaningful, very powerful there. So we recognize our veterans. I'm also very proud to share that our students and our student athletes continue to shine in ways that never cease to amaze us. You may have heard that, well, if you saw this morning, and I don't see Kim here today, Kim Smith from the newspaper, but on the front page of the Green Valley News Sahuarita Sun, that is the front page. Walden Grove High School beats state champs, makes playoffs, and very exciting. We wish the Red Wolves the best of luck as they travel up the road to take on Northwest Christian up in the Phoenix area on Friday. And really like to congratulate the Sahuarita High School Mustangs, who, as you might remember, won 3 games in the last 3 years. And this year, through a lot of hard work, or as they call it, grit, and a lot of teamwork, community support, and collaboration, they won 7 games, and they earned the region championship. So we're very proud of our student athletes. And to me, it's not just about the wins, but it's about the life skills and the values and the character traits that are taught through sport. So we congratulate our student athletes on these accomplishments. The ROTC never ceases to win, it seems like. But recently they competed they qualified, first of all, for what's called the National Raider Competition. It's like a triathlon, but amped up. It's climbing over high walls in mud, running long distance, carrying heavy objects, and working as a team. It took place, as you can tell, we're not in the Sonoran Desert anymore. That took place in Moline, Georgia, and it was the All-America National All-Services Championship. So this is high school ROTC units, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps. And we competed with great honor, took 5th place in the entire United States of America. We have a young lady named Kylie Gallegos that came in 5th in the girls division. And then the boys division, the national champion is from Sahuarita School District. His name is Michael Daly. And these students also make us all shine in a very special way. I want to tell you about the latest way that we are honoring the trust of our community in regards to intentionally elevating our commitment to educational technology, 21st century learning, and providing our classrooms the tools that they need to help our kids be future ready. That nondescript location is where the first shipment of our latest, they're called interactive flat panels. Is that right, Mr. Villa? They're interactive flat panels, and I got to tell you just the specs on these things. These are state-of-the-art. They're 75-inch LGs. They have a 7-year warranty. Manny and his team did an amazing job of finding the best for the buck. It has all kinds of cyber protections built in. It has a great warranty. They're very durable, energy efficiency, and they have a very, as I understand, user-friendly interface. So these are the tools of the present and future, and I'm pleased that we're able to honor the trust that our community placed on us to deliver this in terms of the education that we provide for our students. So I hope you can tell in the voice and in the expression that in this time when we give thanks, and always, I'm grateful to be part of a community that has this kind of spirit of connectedness and a shared focus upon working as a team to do the best we can by our entire community and certainly by our students. So with that, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and move on to our governing board reports, and we'll start with Dr. Sparks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think, seeing all those touchscreen TVs, I'm old school. Like, don't touch the monitor. Like, don't touch the TV. Don't put your fingers on it. But I saw one of those in a kindergarten class recently, and they were going away on that thing, and it was, they were drawing on it and answering questions, and they're pretty cool, actually. When I listen, they've come a long way. Cause was it called? I looked it up. It was Epson. It made those. They had those projectors that hung from the ceiling and could maybe read the board. Sometimes we've come a long ways, technology. And that's only the last decade or less. Right. So it's kind of cool. So I think that's. This is that time of year. It's fun. Like football season wrapping up, swim wrapping up. I think one of our swim teams, did some pretty good. One of our Sahuarita High School had a swimmer do well at state.
Yes, we did have a swimmer from the Sahuarita high school swim team who I believe was a state champion in the backstroke. And it came and say, "Did you have a picture?"
Do we have a picture of that? I thought we did.
His name is Connor Swigert, I
Yep,
believe. I
Connor.
heard about that. Yeah. There he is.
There he is.
Champion in the 100 back, and I think placed in the 100 free.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Happens to be the swim coach too. Right. So,
our students shine in many ways.
yep. Both the bands did well. It's just that time of year. Lots of stuff going on. So I think volleyball ended. Like,
In playoffs.
Yep. So just a good fun time of year. So I think a lot to do around here during this time of year. But anyways, that's all. I just recognizing all those people's success and grateful to be here and almost ready for another short vacation here in just a few days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Just like to congratulate Tony Bruno, Denise Reese, and Amy Petersmark on successfully winning their race for Sahuarita School Board. Tony and Denise, I'm happy to get to continue working with you. And Amy, I look forward to working with you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bruno.
No report today.
No problem. Ms. Reese.
My batteries are dying, so we'll change those out in a second. This is our only for November, and I just want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving as you get ready to do those travels. And please enjoy all of our events that are going on right now. There is, like Dr. Sparks mentioned, there's a lot going on in our schools. So make sure you're still getting some sleep for the kiddos, and but make sure you enjoy. It's a neat time.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to say thank you to all of our service members and staff and all the students that step up at the end of the year and join into the service. It's amazing. Freedom is not free. I did get a chance to attend both of the football games on Friday night. I was on our fields and watched our bands and the families and senior nights and watched both of the marching bands and their cheerleading and the dance groups. And if you all have not been to one of our high school football games next year, you've got to dial in. There's just something amazing about it, especially when you start looking at other schools or hearing about the low attendance and the low turnout. When you come to their Sahuarita High School or Walden Grove, it's just like you've landed on another planet, and it's amazing. And it's a lot of fun, and it was just great energy on both, and always so welcoming, and very grateful to have attended that. I'm speaking of grateful. It is November. I am very grateful for the elections for Tony and Denise. I've had the pleasure of working for them over the last several years. After 8 years, I will be stepping off, and I couldn't be happier to have Amy sit in this seat. So welcome aboard, and we look forward to all the onboarding. She's volunteered so much in her schools already, and she knows so much. It's going to be a quick one. Anyway, so we will see you all next month as well. So that is my report, and we're going to go ahead and move on. Recognition of staff, students, and community, what people are here, what's all about. Dr. Valenzuela.
Thank you, President Lowe, members of the board. It's my honor this evening, as every evening when we do recognitions, to recognize members of our support staff team who comprise about half of our employee workforce and are a vital, invaluable part of the delivery of our vision of excellence and our mission of student success. These folks make transformational impact. And here to tell you about the latest honoree or honorees is Mr. Downs.
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela. It's a very exciting time. I love this part of the meeting. It's very exciting, but also it's kind of disappointing because we can only recognize one. Probably every day of the year we could recognize one of our wonderful employees. But this evening we'll be recognizing our November Employee of the Month. It was the utmost enthusiasm and admiration that we, the counseling department and the administrative team at Sahuarita High School, give this letter of recommendation for Susan Davis to be recognized as the Sports Staff of the Year. Susan serves as our registrar by title, but does so much more for the culture and well-being of our school. She is the first person in
Congratulations, Susan.
Thank you so very much. And we're going to move on to our students. Dr. Valenzuela.
You know, President Lowe, members of the board, I am grateful to you for many things, but one of which is for your unwavering support for every month this Leader in Character program. I will tell you that I walk our schools on a regular basis, almost every day, and I talk to our students. And one of the things that's the most amazing is that consistent, polite, respectful demeanor and citizenship that they exude. Now, they're kids, I understand that, but they've been modeled, they've been taught, and they exemplify that character matters, that citizenship matters. And so I'm grateful that we have at this highest level of the governing board team, that we have this opportunity to recognize, to say thank you, to recognize these students and also their families, because these are values that you've taught, that you model, that you set the example for every day, and that you continue to reinforce and teach that these are important things. So we thank all of you. We celebrate and honor these students with you. When your name is called, please come down and receive your certificate, your letter, and your gift card as a symbolic token of our acknowledgement. Get your picture taken after you come and shake Mr. Bruno's hand. Mr. Bonner will help you on the steps over there. We're going to take a photo and send it to the Green Valley News because they continue to very graciously publish this in the newspaper so the whole community can see what amazing young people we have here in our community. So let's get started with our Leader in Character from Sopri Elementary School, third grader Damian Benitez. Damian. Congratulations to Damian. And we will now recognize our Leader in Characters. Oh, there's two of them from Anza Trail, because Anza Trail has an elementary component and also a middle school component. So our first honoree is another third grader. Congratulations, Abigail Imprahim. Congratulations, Abigail. And now we recognize our middle school Anza Trail Leader in Character, who's a sixth grader. Congratulations, Ashley Vincent. Congratulations, Ashley. And it is now time to recognize our Leader in Character from Sahuarita Primary School, and his name is Noah Hernandez. Noah. Oh. Congratulations, Noah. Keep up the good work. And we will go on to the good work of our Leader in Character from Sahuarita Intermediate School. Congratulations, third grader Mason Lee. Keep up the good work, Mason. And we will now recognize our Leader in Character from Sahuarita Intermediate School, who is also in third grade. This is our third grader tonight. Must be the, oh, is it? Oh no, this one's third grade too. Couple of you. The honoree is Roya Harrison. Roya. Congratulations. It must be the evening of the third grader. But now we'll move on to Wrights and Ridge, where again we honor two, an elementary grade and a middle grade. And here we have another kindergartner. These, our youngest students, are obviously making quite a big impression in their first year. And our Leader in Character from Wrights and Ridge is kindergartner Natalia Leyva. I don't see Natalia. We'll make sure that she gets her award, but we will move on to our leader in character for the middle grades from Wrightson Ridge. Congratulations, Eli Garcia. I got it wrong. It's Ellie. I don't want to make mistakes with people's names. I go to great lengths. Ellie. And from Sahuarita Middle School, our leader in character is another sixth grader. Congratulations, Camden Casillas. We will now move on to Sahuarita High School, where our leader in character is a senior. Congratulations, Kylie Rowe. Kylie. Congratulations, Kylie. Keep up the good work. And we recognize another senior from Walden Grove High School. Congratulations, Pedro Mendoza. Way to go, Pedro. We're very proud of you, and we will round out this evening's recognitions with the leader in character from Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy. And this month's honoree is a sophomore at SDPA. Congratulations, Calvin Caldwell. Skip Sanchi. Good job. Good luck. And we're going to take that special picture. Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, if you want to come down and take your own Facebook or whatever you'd like to do, please come on down. We'll take a little break. What is it? I mean, what a beautiful name. It is a, and it's very unique. It's very unique. Oh, what he is? Really? Oh, I remember. I saw pictures of him when he. Yes. Oh, where's he at now? Where's he at? Infantry. I remember that. Brett, congratulations. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Chip off the old block. Congratulations to all of our students, and folks, you're welcome to stay, but we also understand there's other activities and homework to do, so it's totally appropriate at this time if you need to leave. Thank you so much for making time to join us. I'm very proud. That kid's precious. I'm with you.
The better.
Yeah. We have amazing kids here. Yeah, they're great. Oh, he logged you out? Oh, jeez. It's trying to do a little, being efficient. That's right. That's right.
Kill the germs.
Does that stuff ever really expire?
That's at least another 4 years.
Thank goodness, that's where all the fun.
You ready? All
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
thank you very much. That was very delightful. It's always a delight to see those kids. Oh my goodness. And they work so hard. I'm grateful for the recognition. We don't have any call to public, so we're going to go on to new business. And we're going to start with item number A, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Lowe, members of the board. You have in your packet information about the SUSD school calendar 26-27. It was brought up at the last meeting. Mrs. Robinson and Mr. Bonner initiated a process, which I'll ask them in a second to share about. But basically, the board asked a few years ago to kind of keep a couple years ahead of the calendar so people can plan. So we do. As you recall, the main changes on this one from normal protocol is we added a possible SDPA graduation, and the conferences, even as soon as next year, are changing to where they're going to be kind of in the middle of the quarter for intervention purposes and things like that. Mr. Bonner, Ms. Robinson, what can you share with us before I make a recommendation about this process?
You summed it up very well, Dr. Valenzuela, Madam President, members of the board, and community. This initial draft of the 26-27 calendar was presented during the October 2nd, 2024 board meeting. It was then tabled, and as we've done in the past, we always put it out for feedback and a survey. And I want to just summarize briefly the summary of the survey results. Overall rating, again, it was on our website. We collected the feedback. Overall rating was positive based on the 26-27 proposed calendar. We had a Likert scale, 5 being that it was most favorable, 1 not supported or not liked. We had 48 responses overall, 48 people. 41% rated the overall calendar with a 5, 23% rated it with a 4, 19% rated it with a 3, 2% rated it with a 2, and 15% rated it with a 1. So again, overall, it was favorable. Some of the themes of the feedback, themes that we've heard in the past. So nothing that was really surprising or new, but things that the board has considered through our OHI survey or in feedback that we received prior years when we've reached out to our community to seek additional feedback. Specifically, one of the prominent feedback items was because of the Thanksgiving break, to have the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving as a designated holiday. Historically, we have not opted to do that. With the balance of our current calendar, we've kept that traditionally with just the 2 days off for Thanksgiving break. In addition to that, we had some other relevant requests that had a very similar theme. Again, Thanksgiving being the biggest one. Some additional themes would be, which I found interesting, a common form of feedback received was frustration on how early parent-teacher conferences were scheduled. But if you remember, a few years back, we made the change to the 25-26 calendar because of the feedback we got prior to that, where the feedback we got was to move the conferences before conference time so we could do early interventions, have the conversations with parents. So it was interesting to see it almost flipped. However, we haven't tried it yet. So next year, the board already approved the calendar. It's already posted on our webpage. The 25-26 calendar will actually have the conference times just like what is presented tonight. But again, that'll be the first year next year actually trying that. So I wanted to share the feedback overall. Very favorable. It was just interesting how it kind of flipped sides. So that was another theme. One of the comments was, can you please move the spring holiday to a later time in April? We have it set up for April 2nd. That could be adjusted. There's no designated, that's really our way of flexibility. We like to keep one day as a spring holiday. Now, just out of full transparency, we looked at that month where historically there's been no time off. We designated the April spring holiday, and we looked at the highest rate of absenteeism, and it was typically on a Good Friday or the Good Friday. Now, we don't designate the day off because of a holiday or religious day or event, but in this case, if it does fall on a Good Friday because of attendance factors, we tie in the spring holiday on that date. But there's times when Good Friday is in March, and we always keep that spring holiday in April. So know that the board has that flexibility to move that time frame from April 2nd to April 9th or 16th. It was just a good balance when it was proposed to the board originally. In addition to that, the final themes were to possibly remove the spring holiday and move that day to Thanksgiving. But again, that would leave a no holiday during the longest month, which we do state testing and a lot of end of the year culminating events. So I know historically our staff and community have been in favor of that spring holiday. And finally, there were some comments about, let's look at adopting a 4-year school schedule. We have looked into that in the past based on the
4-year school schedule?
a 4-day.
A 4-day.
4-day? Did I say 4-year?
Yeah.
That would have been a long year.
Yeah.
It would be a 4-day school schedule. I forgot to throw school in there. So 4-day school schedule. We've looked at that in the past through our OHI survey, and we've had mixed reviews. Nothing that was really an outlier of favor or not in favor, is really mixed. And the biggest feedback we got came from parents trying to find childcare for the primary elementary grades if we did shift to a 4-day school year moving forward. So historically, the board has not moved in that direction, and we've kept the traditional 5-day school calendar of the 180 days. Another comment that came out was adjusting to do what, like a year-round calendar, like our neighbors to the east, Vail School District, where they have 2 weeks off in October and 2 weeks off during spring break. Again, our feedback from our community has been, we like the longer summer months, and through the OHI survey, it has favored the traditional calendar that I'm, again, presenting to you this evening. And so overall, that's the theme and the feedback that we got through the survey. The calendar presented to you today is in alignment with all state statutes. We have 180 school days. In addition to that, we are again proposing to the board that we, based off of original feedback from a few years ago, have parent-teacher conferences prior to fall break, and then have parent-teacher conferences prior to the spring conferences in March, spring break, have it before that in February 11th and 12th. And again, we haven't had that done yet. So at any time, the board has the authority to make changes or revisions. So just because it's approved doesn't mean it can't be revisited and changed based on feedback or if it didn't work well. But we're following feedback from the community from years past. And finally, if we look at the calendar, it's a good balance. We try to have 90 days in the first semester, 90 days in the second semester, which we accomplish in this presentation of the calendar for you. with the first quarter being 44 days, second quarter being 46 days, third quarter 47 days, and the fourth quarter 43 days. 90-90 equals 180. It's a good balance. And also what we consider, if we extend the calendar, it creates this domino effect where then it'll push our end of the year after Memorial Day. And historically, we like to end before Memorial Day because right after Memorial Day, on that Tuesday, summer school starts. And we run summer school during the month of June only. So it's very compressed, very tight. And historically, again, this calendar has worked well. My last comment is Dr. Valenzuela referenced it in collaboration with Ms. Flores, Director of SDPA, her staff, her parents, and her students. They have recommended to make a transition to host their own graduation ceremony, separate from what we've done in the past, where it's been at their school of residency. That will still be in place this year based on the feedback from their seniors. They wanted to keep that tradition, but moving forward for school year 25-26 and school year 26-27, it will have its own designated date. It'll be the last Tuesday of the school year during the daytime, typically around 3 or 4, where it doesn't interfere or create any conflict with other very busy events that are taking place that week, and it gives a very special time for SDPA to recognize their seniors independently, where we can all be there to support that graduation ceremony. So with that, I'll return it to Dr. Valenzuela, and thank you for the feedback.
No, thank you as always, Mr. Bonner and Ms. Robinson, for your always meticulous, thorough, and detailed approach to making this process as good as it can be. I agree with everything you said. I like our calendar. I think it's balanced on many levels. I think, this is hard work, and there's at least a 1 week break every quarter. I like the balance between the two dates. It helps our semester schedule, and it's consistent conceptually with what we've done historically. We are somewhat creatures of habits and traditions in that regard. So with that, thank you, Mr. Bonner, Mrs. Robinson, and I recommend approval of the calendar for school year 26-27 as it's been presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam President, I think, Madam President,
Yes, yeah.
thank you. I'm just curious, sometime in the future, I remember attending a breakout session on the concept of 4-day school weeks, and it does seem to pop up. Although when I talk to people, the people that bring that up usually come from fairly rural areas. It's a relatively, my understanding is most of the districts in Arizona that do 4-day school weeks are relatively rural. And I think a lot of people, what I learned from that session was a lot of people thought it was to save money because they close the schools down and have less people on 1 day less, but it actually allows considerable flexibility for staff to have a school job and another job, which I thought was interesting. One of the reasons they broke that 4-day out is it was easier to attract staff because then they could only work 4 days and have another option. In a rural area, that's a lot harder, although we struggle maintaining staff too, I think at some level, like all schools, but more so there. And that there was a minor cost impact, but on that whole reason I'm asking is, it doesn't have to be a big study or anything, but I'm curious. I'd like to know, or if you know anybody, if there's any school districts over 2,000 students that do 4-day school weeks. I'm just curious. Maybe
I don't know the exact enrollment number, but I believe Casa Grande still has it in place, and also
the whole school district, Casa Grande school
I
district?
Just,
don't know the whole,
just secondary.
just elementary.
Just the elementary,
and
because
then
high school's 5.
Bisbee too has a 4-day school week as well.
So
we
Casa
know
Grande Elementary,
Correct.
and then
Bisbee.
Bisbee.
That I know
And
of.
there's a couple up on the rim that have 4-day weeks.
And actually, Elfrida Unified does
yeah,
as well.
and pretty
Yeah.
small. So Casa Grande Elementary is pretty big.
I remember after COVID, do we have any studies on secondary being 4-day and then 1 day at home? Like on like a Monday, Tuesday, like Wednesday at home, Thursday, Friday, only on secondary?
That's been discussed
Yeah,
as
that's what I
a
thought.
possible model, where, for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, regular school days. Wednesday is more of a consult. Teachers are still working.
right.
Students could come in, do project-based learning, could work on CTE projects or initiatives. It could look differently. I don't know of many school districts that have that.
I was going to
but
say,
I've-
are there
I've
any
seen some
models of
feedback
that in
on that.
Arizona yet?
Yeah,
There's not any models of
not
it
that I
yet.
know of.
The only thing I would echo pretty much a lot of what Dr. Sparks said is that it seems to be a response and a strategic initiative in small
Yeah.
rural districts that we all struggle with the human capital challenges and the staffing challenges that just define society as a whole right now. Those are magnified in what we would call really the rural areas. I would say that among, like you said, there are a few handfuls, maybe of districts, maybe not even more than one handful. There's a few districts around the state that are doing it. Most generally fit that criteria. I have talked with a colleague in one of those, because we've looked at it. And I even asked recently, because they're continuing to do it, and to the whole notion that it's a staffing-oriented enhancer, I just said, is it doing better?
It hasn't. No.
We did look at some research that, again, there's not a lot out there, but Dr. Valenzuela also looked at an article that came out looking at the 4-day school week. And it was great for rural communities, great for recruitment and retention for staff.
Yeah.
In addition to that, there was some negative support because of the need for childcare for families that work and aren't able to have that full 5-day
Yeah.
school week. In addition to that, there was no real change or significant impact with student achievement. It actually slowed almost like a drop in the research that we looked at initially.
That should cause a slight
Correct, slides,
I would
yeah.
think.
And that makes sense. I mean, from a repetitive structures, consistency over the week. And I'm not suggesting we do it. I was just curious. I think because and the childcare thing often comes up, right? Every time we ask in the OHI, what about moving to? I'm going to call it the extended break schedule, because when Vail calls it the year-round school schedule, it irks me just a little bit, because year-round to me is 3 series, A section, B section, C section, and it's really these huge schools that don't have space, and they overlap all year. Right? That's what I think of a true year-round schedule, where the school is literally open all year. And theirs really is, they still have a summer, they just have longer breaks. We'll call it the extended break schedule. But every time we talk about that, that is the thing, right? There's a section of our constituents that are like, yeah, I love it. And most of those people want to use it for vacations and travel and extra time. But then there's always a pretty equal in size, last couple of times we've checked, group that's like, no, because those daycare struggles, those childcare struggles across the year just get exacerbated when fall break's 3 weeks long and Christmas break's 3 weeks long, not 1 and 2 and 1. When you send those out, it does make an impact. So I think I like our schedule. I guess what I'm saying is it balances that. We try to have regular time off, but yet kind of follow that traditional model that allows people to be structured too. So just. I'm grateful we do 2 years out now too, by the way.
That was a great move.
Yeah.
I think that of all the other opportunities that our kids have in the summertime, summer camps, Parks and Rec, all the opportunities that, that other schools, they don't get the opportunity for. So,
And based on the board feedback and the cycle of always being 2 years ahead, which I agree with, I think that's wise. We do keep those calendars posted on our district webpage. So at any time, families, community members can log on to the main district website, type in school calendar, and the 2 years in advance will always be posted for public review.
Kind of an interesting thing. We've been using this model of how to display it since I've been on the board.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time in my work life looking up school calendars for families, and they're like, I don't know what day that last day of whatever is. And what I've noticed over the last few years, by the way, just to comment, most of the school districts in Pima County now use this format, which I love, because then I can just download them on my computer and keep them. But I just think it's interesting. I think you may have set that trend.
Well, I'll give credit to the artist. Amber Woods is an artiste, so well done, Amber Woods.
This
There was
layout,
Barbara-
like
Barbara
having it
Manriquez
the whole
that
year
had it.
color code. So thank you, Amber.
Yeah, she does a great job.
You led the
Yeah.
county, I think.
It's easy to read.
It's
not-
easy.
It's not confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Denise.
So sorry if I
Yeah.
misappropriately gave credit to Mr. Potter, and it was really.
It's a team effort, but the artist is right there, so.
Well, and we have to give credit to Barbara Manriquez, who stood on a call to public.
Yeah, that's
About
right.
it because of a cruise schedule. But
Agreed. Several years
I
ago.
remember,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Ms.
And also,
Reagan.
to your point, I also see districts using our calendar and following the same pattern of certain holidays. And just, to Continental School District, follows our calendar as well because of their freshmen coming our way. So we work closely with that school district as well.
So I did have a quick question in looking at this, and it goes to that spring holiday on that April 2nd of 2027. So that's 2 weeks after we get back from spring break. And I completely understand the want to tie that to the Easter weekend if possible. But my question is related to the spring testing that's handled at all of the schools. Does that put that date actually before testing is completed?
It does. So it goes right before. So there's the Friday, and then state testing will start that next week, and then we go through then makeups, and then it's crunch time. But
Yeah.
it can be moved. But we felt based on looking at state testing, window of time, and then how busy it gets, that was the best placement if we want to keep a date in April. But again, it can be fluid.
Yeah, no, and I was counting the weeks and then we go for like 7 solid weeks before so I don't know whether that's something that if we want to put that as a future agenda item or what if we want to revisit that one. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of knowing how fried my students typically are after state testing is maybe we need to evaluate
Doing it after?
that spring holiday for potentially being after testing instead. And I would be interested, if we want to revisit it, I would be interested in hearing from our site principals and whoever the testing coordinators are as well, because I just don't know. And I understand, believe me, I understand crunch time. I'm going from 3 in high school to 3 in high school next year. So I get it.
Yeah.
So, and I totally understand the crunch time. So that's, if we want to make sort of a more systematic change to that one, I kind of wouldn't mind looking at it at some point, and I'll bring it up
Do you
during.
want, do you want to look at that for 2027 or you want to look at it for 2028?
I'm kind of thinking for 2027 and maybe even looking at it for 2026. I'll go back and we can look at it. I just don't know. With it only being 2 weeks after the end of spring break and before testing still,
So the only,
it just feels like, it feels a little bit like the fall break, parent-teacher conferences, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving crunch there, where it's like, wait, you're off of school again, kind of a thing. And it's, so I don't know, maybe we need to just take a look at that one. And I'm not sure when it falls on the 2026 calendar either.
So would you propose more like a time frame of April 23rd or the 30th?
I was actually thinking of the 16th or the 23rd. To me, the 23rd feels really good, but I think the 16th still falls into the testing frame.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
2
testing,
weeks, right?
Yep, and just so the board has full awareness.
Yeah.
So we do state testing, and then right after that, we do our benchmark testing. So that's why it's such a busy,
Yep.
testing-heavy month. Doesn't mean we can still move it. If we were to change, 23rd would be better than the 16th,
Yeah.
but that will interfere with the benchmark testing for grades K through 8th grade.
Mr. Bonner,
Okay.
I'm just
So
curious
not
as you kind of go back and forth on
Yeah.
that thoughtful dialogue. What's the possibility that 2 years from now, how many variables are still contingent upon future determinations from the state board about the new testing
Great question.
protocol?
That's my question.
I think to directly respond to your inquiry, I would say very consistent. I don't see a shift happening for state testing for grades 3rd through 8 and high school for ACT. And because of Move On when reading and because of benchmark testing and the way our curriculum's designed, our benchmark testing takes place 3 times a year, fall, winter, and then spring. And that it really fits into April. Our goal is to be done with most testing, some overlap, before final exams and the end of the year. And that's why that second was selected to help offset the testing schedule. But again, it's a fluid date based on feedback and the design of when to have that spring holiday.
Yeah, and for purposes of 2027, is that the second tied to the Easter holiday?
I'd have to verify. There's some months where it's not.
Yeah, I know, because this last year it wasn't.
Correct.
So, yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what's best for teachers, what's best for schools, what's best for families. I know that for me as a parent, when those breaks start coming really close together, it feels like
It is.
it's very jerky and trying to get established back into any kind of like regular rhythm or anything else. But that's probably a me thing rather than a
Mrs. Reese?
greater.
Mrs. Reese, I
And
do
Mr.
have-
and Mr. Bonner, if it helps you at all, and first of all, my recommendation would be if this is what emerged and was vetted, I would recommend that we approve it, and if there's a desire to discuss it further and change it, that's how it was originally conceptualized.
Yeah.
But for the record, I would say that if we're trying to utilize the timing with the Good Friday, it's over.
It
Because
is.
Easter Sunday is March
It's the
28th,
28th,
so
Okay.
that constraint does
Gotcha.
not exist.
And just so you know, for 2027, Easter lands on Sunday,
March
March
28th,
28th.
exactly.
So it isn't tied.
Easter is fluctuates so much that
Yeah.
it would be hard to chase that date.
Yeah.
But looking at April logistically, it normally doesn't have a day off. So putting it in there without breaking up the 3 weeks of testing and makeups, transitioning over to benchmark testing and end of the year testing for our professional growth goals, it would be a difficult task.
Well, and that's why I didn't want to, like, if we decide to look at it, I don't want to do that just here and
Right.
in a vacuum. It would need to have a lot more players into it. But it sounds like from what you've just said that it's actually better to keep it before testing. Okay.
It sounds like, in this.
Good discussion,
And this
yeah.
was very, very thoughtfully considered, but it sounds like the point about high absentee rates on the Good Friday, this suggests that there were other probably equally thoughtful considerations as to why that date was picked. And so, I mean, I think I hear agreement that the approval of this calendar is sound with the emergence of things that this is always subject to change, and we need to be nimble and able to turn and change it at any time, even for next year if the board were to so choose.
And Madam President, and Ms. Reese, I think one of the things I always think about, 'cause April's a rough month.
Yeah.
It's rough is a polite term, right? And I think everybody recognizes that, whether you're a staff, teacher, student, parent. And I think ultimately I don't see any marks of change of that from a state perspective of when that testing window is going to be, right? So we're kind of bound, and unless we get a lot more kind of structured flexibility and we utilize some of the resources of some of these monolithic companies that help keep things in check, like the state being able to return testing data around faster, I don't think those dates are moving, right? Because I would love it if those testing dates were kind of a lot more tight and we had a system that allowed the state to collect those and get them back quicker. Because I think it's for me, it's really early in the year, right? I think everybody agrees it would be better at a different time, but I just can't see the state. Historically, maybe we could invite the state Board of Education to come in and tell us why they keep the testing there. But
2028, Easter's on April 16th. So that's right.
Yeah.
yeah, right in the middle of it. So that's going to be crazy. So, thank you. That's it. It's hard. I get it. And I think it's one of those things I think we've tried to work around, but it's.
No, and it sounds like that and I didn't want to, and I hope I didn't even inadvertently imply that there wasn't enough put into it. It was just, I'm looking at it and I'm going, it's freaking 2 weeks after fall or
Short.
spring break. Like, what? So, yeah.
And that's happened in years past when the highest absenteeism day
Correct.
or Good Friday was right after spring break. It's happened too, where we were off for spring break, come back, and then there's another day
everybody's
off
still
within a
gone.
week or
Yeah.
two. So it fluctuates on holidays and different calendars and events that we're really locked into, like state testing as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further discussion on this before?
It is hard to believe that it's 26, 27 though. I mean, that's
Right.
amazing.
Well, and if the board next year decides to bounce, we're only bouncing one day. It's not like we're looking at changing, major.
No one's doing major
No. If we're planning for-
vacation plans
for
based on a
planning
single day
purposes,
off.
Right. Well, so we have a motion, we have a second.
We had a motion and a second, so we're just in discussion.
Let's go ahead and, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Good discussion. All right, and now we are going to move on to item number B, Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, President Lowe, members of the board. If you were to pull up your computers and Google National Board Certification, something like this would come up. One of the most respected certifications in education, a gold standard of professional attainment, or something like that. I'm very proud to say that when I came to Sahuarita, literally I could count on one hand the number of people who had pursued this gold standard of professional preparation and certification. And through intentional efforts and ongoing support of the board for continuing education, professional development, for educators throughout the continuum of their career, this national board program has continued to grow, thrive, and really elevate not only the profession, but the standard which we set here in the Sahuarita Unified School District. So this evening we have Mr. Ryan Carl Ogren, who's going to come down and provide the board with an update about national board certification in Sahuarita Unified School District. I didn't see you, Beth, hiding back there.
Good evening to the board, Madam President, members of the board, and all of our district admin. We're very grateful to have the time to share with you what we're doing to support teachers with national board certification. So again, my name is Ryan Carl Ogren. I'm the Director of Professional Development and Curriculum.
My name is Elizabeth Dahl. I'm the music teacher at Sahuarita Primary School.
We wanted again to just showcase what all of the efforts that we have done in Sahuarita, along with our partnerships with the Arizona K-12 Center in regards to the process for national board certification, how it helps support, retain, and recruit teachers, support our teachers, and then also highlight what's happening in Sahuarita. So according to the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, National Board Certification is the most respected professional certification available in education and provides numerous benefits to teachers, students, and schools. It was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvement in schools nationwide. Both myself and Ms. Stahl have taken part in the process and have gone through our initial certification. Ms. Stahl here had submitted for a maintenance of certificate last year and is waiting for her results coming up in just a couple of weeks. And I'm working on my maintenance of certificate this year. So as you look through, when you look at the components of what National Board Certification entails, for the initial certification, there are 4 components. Component 1, based on content knowledge, is a test that the teachers go and take. Component 2, differentiation and instruction, and looking how they're working with different groups of students. Component 3, teaching practice and learning environment, where teachers actually have to videotape and record themselves, reflect on their videos, and submit their recordings. And then component 4, effective and reflective practitioner, is looking at different ways that they work to build community and relationships within and outside of their classroom. And then the maintenance of certificate for those that have certified, because the certification is only for 5 years, is where the teachers choose 2 professional growth experiences based on their time from when they initially certified, looking at how they attend professional development, support other teachers, and most importantly, support their students. Within that, when you look at the standards that are put in place and the different information that's provided by the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, there are 2 main things in addition to the standards that are provided in each certificate area. The first is the 5 core propositions for educators. And here in SUSD and within the Sahuarita Professional Learning Institute, we've adapted these so they're reflection points for all of our teachers and staff whenever they're attending a professional development workshop. So as you can see there, the 5 our educators are committed to students and their learning. They know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. Educators are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. They think reflectively about their practice and learn from experience. And educators are a member of learning communities. So again, at the beginning of every professional development, we ask our facilitators to highlight which ones are going to be focused and give a moment for each of our teachers or attendees or staff members to think about what they're doing. Because while it's so important to reflect on what our students are doing and how we're supporting them, we also have to reflect on our own practices so we can best serve them. In addition, there's the architecture of accomplished teaching, which we've started introducing all of our teachers to through our curriculum days. It starts down there at the bottom of that knowledge of students. Who are they? Where are they now? What do they need? And in what order do they need it? And it's that foundation of if we don't know our students, we can't teach them. Okay? We can't serve them the best. As you look at the second part there, it's setting those high and worthwhile goals appropriate for these students at this time in this setting. It's not about the students or what we had before COVID, during COVID, even a couple years ago. It's about what's happening right now. And then it's cyclical, it moves up. It's implementing the instruction, evaluating the student learning, reflecting on student learning, and then setting new and worthwhile goals. And the neat thing about the architecture of accomplished teaching is this can be applied to a single student, could be applied to an entire class, an entire cohort. It could be looked at for one class period, a full unit, or the full school year. So again, more opportunities for teachers to reflect on what they're doing and why they're doing it in order to best serve their students at that time in that setting. When you look at the benefits of the National Board Certification, and this is pulled from their website, students that have a National Board Certified teacher in their classroom receive 2 additional months of instruction on average compared to a non-board certified teacher. In addition, the depth of learning is 3 times, and they have these studies from Mississippi that shows for kindergarten students taught by a National Board Certified teacher, they were more likely to achieve a proficient rating on their kindergarten assessment, readiness assessment. And their 3rd grade students taught by an NBCT are 11% more likely to achieve a proficient score on their ELA. In addition to that, from my experience of completing my master's right alongside of my national board, I truly believe that national board certification has a greater impact on our students because you're reflecting on what's happening in the classroom versus what some professor is doing. Not saying that master's is not appropriate or meaningful, but when we look at the best way to support our students, national board certification is one of those vehicles to do that. With that, we've been really fortunate through the Arizona K-12 Center since just before COVID that there's a ton of support within the state of Arizona to help support teachers through their process. First and foremost, they provide a pre-candidacy class, which is required to receive funding from the AZ K-12 Center. But what that does is that helps involve teachers in the process and make them aware of what's coming up before they get fully engulfed in the process. They do a new and continuing candidate kickoff to provide those supports. And in addition, by being part of each of those events, the Arizona K-12 Center will provide full funding for each of the components. Some teachers may be turned off by the certification because it is $475 per component, in addition to a $75 registration fee. But with the Arizona K-12 Center and committing to teach 1 year after certification, all of that is covered, along with partnership and grant opportunities through CEF. With that, they also helped fund a district candidate support provider, who's Beth Dahl for us, that works with our candidates, coaching Saturdays, and again, maintenance of certificate support. And then every year in the spring, they recognize all of the new certified and continuing certified teachers at the celebration of accomplished teaching. Here in Sahuarita, we have monthly coaching meetings in the SPLI PD Center. We provide an annual coaching day where all of the teachers can come for a full day uninterrupted to focus on submitting before the deadline in May. And then upon certification, all of our teachers receive a $1,000 stipend for each year that their certification is valid. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Beth now to talk about some of the highlights specifically in here in Sahuarita.
As Ryan said, the national board process has really gotten me, and I know all of our candidates, to be self-reflectors in our practice and to know what's best for students. Here are just some of our highlights in Sahuarita. We've had a candidate support provider here since 2018. 3% of SUSD teachers are nationally board certified. We have one of the highest music teacher certifications in the state. We have an above average rate of new certification in 2024. We had this past summer, Ryan and I were on a panel and were asked by the Arizona K-12 Center to come and discuss what we're doing here in Sahuarita to make this program so successful. We have multiple teachers that are hired that are already nationally board certified that coach candidates through the AZ K-12 Center across the state. 11 of our 15 teachers certified in Sahuarita have been Teacher of the Year at their sites and in the district. 3 of those teachers have been recognized as AEF ambassadors. And not to mention, all of our national board certified teachers are instructional coaches, mentors, teacher leaders, and PD facilitators. If you look here, here are numbers pulled from the National Board website for Southern Arizona schools and the numbers that you have. As you can see, Sahuarita, we have 11 currently that are nationally board certified. Tucson Unified School District has 92, Amphi 51, Marana 29, Catalina Foothills 24, Sunnyside 21, Blowing Wells 19, Sierra Vista 7, Tinca Verde 5, Vail 5, Fort Huachuca 4, Nogales 4, and Santa Cruz 1. So I think within our district, as a smaller district, we're doing a phenomenal job of finding those teacher leaders to become nationally board certified. Here are some of our pictures for our national board certified. On this first page, we have Claire Contreras. I also asked teachers that are nationally board certified to turn in a little testimonial so that you can hear from actual teachers that have gone through the process. Claire Contreras says, "This process was transformative for me as an educator. It continues to push me to engage in deep self-reflection and critically examine my teaching practices. It challenged me to develop more effective instructional strategies to meet the diverse needs of my students. This process also fostered collaboration among educators at the district, state, and national levels for us to share ideas and best practices. National board certification reinforced my commitment to continuous improvement and solidify my dedication to providing the highest quality of education for every student." We have Barb Tingle at Sahuarita Primary School, Rachel Redmond Sims from Sahuarita Primary School. What Rachel has said, what National Board Certified process has done for her students. "I have seen student growth, particularly in the area of reading, because I finely tune each class and lesson to my students' needs. I am acutely aware of my students' needs because I have data-driven practice. I use practice and strategies rather than what is easy or what I've always done, because my students deserve the best possible teaching." We have Sue Young Fritz from Copperview Elementary School. And Sue Young says, "Students tried harder as they saw me learning as well. They were motivated to do well and followed my teaching instruction during my lessons. Because they knew I tried to use different teaching strategies with them. Students improved their overall mastery of what's being taught because they cooperated and experienced various teaching methods with me through the process." We have Sarah Newton, music teacher from Anza Trail School. What motivated her? "When I initially heard of National Board Certification could earn me some extra money, it got my attention. But then I went to the introduction of National Board meeting in my district, and I realized this was something I wanted to do to prove to myself as an educator that I was an accomplished teacher. It just made sense that this was the next step in my career and that getting my National Board certification, I would also strengthen my teaching, benefit my students, and join a network of accomplished teachers that care very much about improving the way they teach and making the most informed choices in their teaching to benefit their students. I wanted to be a part of teachers like this who strive for the best for themselves as well as their students." Jan Bryson from Sahuarita High School, SPED. Rebecca Orvik, Wrightson Ridge, 7th grade math. She is certified in art. And we have Rusty Carl Ogren, Wrightson Ridge School, band and choir. What Rusty would say to other educators about the process: "Do it. This process has the biggest impact on me as an educator that anything could have. It has opened my professional relationships to others who are high-achieving teachers who are positive and passionate, and helped me to find joy in the teaching again, despite the frustrations that come along with it." We have Sylvia Arteaga, Sahuarita Primary School, 2nd grade, and she has transferred to us this past year as a National Board Certified teacher. And then we have Ryan and myself. Previous teachers that have worked here in the district that are also NBCTs and did their process here. We have Dana Burke, Jessica England, Benjamin Leibovitz, and Shelley Raish. Our current cohort At this moment in time, we have Diana Villa from Wrights and Ridge School, Sarah Mora from Wrights and Ridge, Brittany Hedges from Copperview, and Brittany also said that what did National Board Certification process do for you as an educator? As an educator, it improved my daily practices and allowed myself really to demonstrate my knowledge. And we have our candidate that is currently working on so Diana, Sarah, and Brittany are all waiting for their scores on December 7th, so we're keeping our fingers crossed for them as they receive their scores to be nationally board certified. And then Elaine Saunders from SHS has just started and declared candidacy and is working with me this year to become a national board certified teacher. So we have a lot of good things happening. Moving forward in SUSD, what we hope is to continued implementation of national board standards in RPDs, increase awareness and the knowledge of national board certification, continuing to come to the school board and talk about all of our teachers that are doing wonderful things and that are becoming nationally board certified and going through this process, highlighting Sahuarita NBCT teachers via all forms of media. We also hope to increase the number of NBCT teachers in Sahuarita. We have an info meeting on November 20th at the One Stop Shop for virtual meetings that I will talk about what the teachers need to do and we gave the principals, we met with the principals this afternoon to give a tap on the shoulder for those that we know that are educational leaders on their campus and they figure that they would benefit from this process. We're hoping to offer through the district a pre-candidacy class starting spring of 2025. Continued conversations with site administrators and site challenges for the number of candidates and certified teachers. We want to increase recognition and incentives for NBCT teachers. At the Welcome Back Kickoff Assembly, we're hoping to have recognition, a Hall of Fame recognition, door decals and banners, and district recognition at the celebration of accomplished teaching. So thank you very much for listening to our presentation today, and I hope it gave you a little bit more light on the national board certification process. I know as an educator, this was my best professional development that I ever could do for myself. As I said in the principals meeting today, yes, I feel sometimes that, yes, I'm a music teacher, but through this process, I learned so much about diving into how to get to know my students, what's best for my students, and I was able to support actually the other teachers on my campus because I didn't realize how much that I can go in and work cooperatively with teachers to help with reading and with math, which we all know that music helps us to do. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Madam President. Sorry, can you hear me? Thank you. By the way, thank you for being here. I think I'm grateful for the effort you both put into this. I think I am always amazed at the drive, desire, willingness to learn and grow. I see in teachers as in general, but I also see it especially in those that seek national board certification. It instills, I think, a love of that drive, a love to help and grow and learn. And I see that in both of you. I've watched you for many years, both of you. And but I think I guess this is a contemplative question. Is there something that, or as you look out across the district, from the board, from administration, is there something you feel like we could do better to support you more? I mean, I opened that up, and I'm willing to take it.
I think the biggest thing for us as we've attended the National Board Institute and stuff right now is just making people more aware of the process and what all goes into it so we can recognize those teachers. So something else that happens in January typically after teachers find out their certification is it's now the Golden Pennant Day. Where we get to go and visit and celebrate those teachers. It used to be the Golden Balloon Day. So you may see those through some of the classrooms, but being there to help support those, recognizing them. And again, just the more that we can provide supports, alongside of what's happening in other districts, working towards that recognition at the celebration of accomplished teaching is kind of those long-term things, but just that initial recognition and involvement and just being informed.
And also, I think you're walking through classrooms. You've been like parents and community members. I think also reaching out to those teachers that you know that might be this might benefit them too, because I think it's something special when they're hearing it from people that are like their look as leaders in the community and leaders on our district staff. So I think that that's why we reached out to the principals today, is that, hey, if they hear it from us, they can hear it from Ryan and I all day long, but to hear it from somebody that is a community member or from our admin staff and say, hey, I think this process might be for you. Maybe you want to check into it. And I think that means something special too.
I think it goes without saying, I think I can speak for everybody, and I'm sure Ms. Hugh would figure it out. If we had 100% board certified, we figured out how to plan that $1,000 for every single teacher, we would gladly do it.
No, absolutely. And I've already heard it and recorded it, sort of. Darlene, in her new role, has already very clearly conveyed her support for national board certification as, I think, the next chapter of, or I should say expansion of national board, as the next chapter of our ongoing commitment, historical commitment, present commitment, and future commitment to our belief, and I think the board's belief, that the professional skills training and investments in the teacher is one of the greatest investments we can make in terms of impacting student outcomes. So I appreciate your comments, Dr. Sparks, because you validate that. I found it interesting, and my question to you would be that just with this sample of professional educators that I'm sure will grow, right, Darlene? It's interesting that even though it's bigger than it was, it's not huge, but it does seem to be somewhat representative. Like you have elementary teachers, primary teachers, intermediate, secondary, specialists, high school teachers, special educators. Was that by chance, or do you take any intentionality in how people are kind of brought into the fold of this training effort?
Well, I think when National Board first started, for what I can say my journey was, it was right after Dana Burke was in the top 5 for AEF, and she went through the process, and I know she started reaching out to different people, especially on the Sahuarita primary campus, and there was a lot of us that we're veteran teachers and we were looking for something, and so we kind of jumped in with both feet. They just had changed the certification process from, I think at one point in time it was like 10 standards that you had to come up with a portfolio and had to have it done within a year, and then they changed it so that it was a little bit more doable for those that are now in the classroom. So now we have 1 to 3 years to do the 4 components. And so Dana kind of reached out to some of us, and then we had somebody from the Arizona K-12 Center come down and do a pre-candidacy class. And I think from there, we had, at that pre-candidacy class, I wanted to say we had probably 12 people from the district, and there was 5 of us that started the process. And then we just slowly keep trying to get the word out. And I think we're just, as we go along, reaching out, like I said, to people to say, hey, can we tap a shoulder of an education, of a leader that you see on your campus or someone that can benefit from this. Now it's our goal, let's try to get someone from every campus. I think we were close last year, and then we had some movement of staff to different places. But I think that's kind of where we're going. Like, let's keep it going.
Dr. Valenzuela, if I may, both Ryan and Beth presented today at our principals meeting. So Beth, Ryan, can you just summarize briefly the message to the principals and then the ask of them as a part of the recruitment efforts?
Yeah, so excuse me, our main challenge is kind of looking at so much of the time when we think about supporting our teachers, the focus does get put on improvement and helping those, and this is an opportunity to highlight the other end of the spectrum. And support them. So we just provided, again, some of the similar information of what all it entails, but also helping support, recognize those teachers, providing time and space and support as they go through the process. And again, we just provided little cards and information things with a pen, tap a teacher to get them thinking about it at least.
Madam President, sorry, I'm talkative tonight. I like the concept of the kind of expansion. I think I don't think I'm remiss in saying we have a model professional development program. People come here.
I would concur.
People come from all over the state to see how we do it, how you all do your jobs, and help teachers to progress and learn and promote professional development. I think we're one of the few districts in the state that has professional development for the breadth of our staff, not just for our teachers, all staff. I know other schools have come here like you do, like, yeah, because continual education and improvement is education. We should do that. And I think I like that concept. Like this, it's like we just added another layer on the outside of that really well-run, expansive program. I think teachers come here. I talked to a teacher a couple of years ago that was brand new, and they're like, wait, you pay for my professional development? We're like, yes, we do, because we put that much. That's important. They were like, oh, I thought I still had to take my Saturdays or get a sub and take a day off and go get my certification. I was like, no. There's a book that has, I don't know, lots of classes, and they were kind of shocked about that. And I think this is hopefully this leads into that, right? That as a district, we're supportive of continual education,
and we're supportive of the belief that excellent teaching is the core of our mission. And there are multiple facets. I remember when I came in this continuum of continuous growth and development, we, as far as I knew, we'd never previously had a teacher at the state semifinalist, quarterfinalist, ambassador for excellence for teacher of the year. And little by little, like the little engine that could, we built up this culture, this norm, that recognition of an elevation of the profession is a worthwhile pursuit. Same with, as you mentioned, sir, with the investment in professional development for every teacher, from the new one in induction to the most seasoned. And I think what I hear you saying, and actually what I've already heard Darlene saying, is that the continued development of national board certification investment is that same investment in this belief that great teaching matters. And it has grown and will continue to grow and build momentum because it's in line with what we believe is important.
I have to say at some point in the future, I'd like to see that list again and us be at the top. I mean, I don't care that TUSD has 30,000 students. I want us to be the top one, right? Because that demonstrates the value of professional
Look at
development.
Darlene smiling over there.
I think I said it. Like, I literally, if everybody was, I think we'd all be happy. It would do great things. And also, I think it does. You can see it. Those of you that I've watched get board certification, you can see it. There's a pride that goes with, I did that. Because I think we should add that this is not easy. Like, it is, it's a tough road. Like, it's hard work. And then there's maintenance involved in that. So it isn't just something you went and took a couple classes. Like, it is effort that is valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you so much for coming to the presentation. We appreciate you both so very much for everything that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was so into that, I forgot where we were. Okay, here we are. Item number 9. Yeah, go ahead.
Number 9A, I
9A.
believe,
Yep.
which is the building renewal grant specifically for the Sahuarita High School fire alarm. And once again, we're talking about another example of where our amazing people, our mission-driven people, go above and beyond to maximize the delivery of our mission. BRG stands for Building Renewal Grant. And this is a program that the state, under the oversight of the School Facilities Oversight Board, has to provide competitive dollars based on availability as legislated for the elevation of basic standards, updated standards in the area of school facilities. But it's, as multiple people, including some in this room, could attest, for lack of a more technical term, it's a boatload of work. And it's a lot of process. And so I'd like to publicly acknowledge Florence Lopez, who we have tapped based on her demonstrated historical expertise to go after these dollars in as much as we qualify for them. And she's been having great success at it. And I think she finds great personal joy and satisfaction that she's adding value to the delivery of our mission through the attainment of these funds. So she's put in for these two proposals that are based on our qualifications, based on the age of the equipment and the other criteria. So this first one is for the fire alarm system that would upgrade it to a more modern, updated standard. And it's been preliminarily approved, authorized by the process in Phoenix. And so what I'm asking this evening is for the board's approval of these terms and conditions so that myself and the board, and I believe Lizette, have to sign off on it. And so then it goes the next step in the process, which is it still has to be appropriated and legislated and all of that. But foreseeably, it's anticipated that we will receive funding to put in a new fire alarm system at, I think this one is at Sahuarita High School. So I would recommend the board's authorization of the terms and conditions so that we can sign it and send it forward to the next step.
Thank you very much. We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have 3 motions, 1 second. Any discussion?
Madam President, over the years, I've seen the velocity and regularity of these increase. She's doing amazing.
Yeah.
I'd be unhappy with myself if I left this meeting and didn't take this opportunity while we're approving one of these to make a nuanced statement about building renewal funds in this state. The average Arizonan does not understand or is not aware how difficult it is to obtain funding from the state level to renew buildings they're responsible for under state constitution. Clearly, like there's a direct constitutional requirement for this. And I think, I'm not mad about that, but I think it's important that people recognize that this process, it's not just fill out a few forms. It is hours and hours and months of work. I mean, I've been working on more than one, but this is a layered process that takes literally months. And then it has to go through appropriations and go through the legislature. And I think it's important to recognize that right now, in order to get the fire system updated in our school, we either have to use local bond money, where we're blessed. This community supports its schools. Like, we're blessed, but we are a relatively small handful of schools. Most school districts, many, struggle to get those bonds passed, or overrides, or any of the bonds, the structures we pass. So I think it's important. Either you have to pay for that locally and get your people to pay for it, or you have to go to the state and essentially beg. Work hard and beg a lot to update a system that is critical to safety in our school, let alone painting, waterproofing, roofs, water system. I mean, you name the systems that have life, they have shelf lives. We know we're going to have to replace fire systems. And these buildings are built to last a long time, but the systems within them have to be replaced and updated. So I know I'm waxing poetic and on my soapbox, but I think it's important that it's said publicly that this is not just, the state, we just filled an application out and they submitted it. It represents many, many hours of work and effort, and it's still not done. It's got heavy roads ahead of it. And I think, so I'm grateful that I can think of lots of things sewer systems, wall penetration, waterproofing, roofs, HVAC. I mean, we've been very blessed with getting these because we have the size and staff and someone to literally manage almost this process. And she does other things too, but lots of effort on this, right? So I had to say that. Sorry, Madam President, for letting me wax strong, but wax poetic and long. But I think it needs to be said publicly.
I think that we have all seen pictures of schools that are in dire need of this, and the fact that we have the ability to have somebody to go after these grants, and that we've got somebody that's good at it and healthy at it, and also, since I only have one more meeting, that we have a healthy board that supports that, because I'm very grateful to all of you that we are united in supporting what supports our kids and not caught up in individual agendas, because, and I'm not saying that those schools that do have that situation, not at all, but it's a component of being healthy, and I can see why it's just an arduous process, and it makes you upset, because we all don't want to see kids suffer when the state should be taking care of it.
Yeah, and the fact that we call them grants is disingenuous.
Thank you.
This should be called the request for needed funds to update systems or something. There's no grant in this. I mean, this is not, oh, thank you. This is, thank you for meeting the needs of the children of our state and updating facilities. So.
Thank you, Dr. Sparks. Thank you for saying that. I think it's very important that people realize the importance of these grants. And if we don't have, that's not a grant like you said. I mean, they call it that, but that's not the theory of how this works. But I think the biggest importance is that if we don't look at additional funding like this, it takes away from our already district additional assistance that we also have been cut, and we also did get funded. So our district additional assistance would then be going to things like this, and not things that we need for curriculum, for things that we need in our classrooms as well. So it's just, thank you for noting that. Thank you for speaking up. I'm grateful that we're able to have someone that can cut through all the red tape. But like you said, this is the beginning. This terms and conditions are just the beginning, and it's a long process ahead, but we're committed, and the district is committed, and thank you for your support. Thank you, Dr. B, for your support, because we're trying hard to get as many as we can. We've talked to our architect, and he's like, well, when are we going to get all this stuff done? And I said, don't worry, we'll get it done as soon as we get some money. So thank you for your support, and thank you for acknowledging that, because I think it's very important for our community to really understand that.
Thank you. Well, any further discussion? Then let's get her done. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, item number B, Dr. Mazuelo.
On to the next one, President Lowell, and this item perhaps might be a little more abbreviated because it's everything that you all just said, other than this one, is for the HVAC at the central cafeteria. And the last time that this broke down, I don't know if I heard this from Lizette or from Scott or Ramon, but check me, I think it's accurate. Some of that stuff is so old that they literally struggle to find the parts. So obviously it needs to be replaced. I would just say, and echoing my colleague Lizette's comments and affirming gratitude for what you said, including about the health and the support and the leadership of this board. We're sitting right now in a 46-year-old building, I believe. 1978, right, Tony? Well, then we'll just make it 48 years. But my point is, look at this building. It's beautiful. It's older, but it's good because together, through the resources that are entrusted to us, including those by the very generous sacrifice and support of this community, through the oversight of this board, and no matter what we have to do through the resources available to us through the state, we're committed, and I know all of you are committed to giving the best of ourselves to our community and especially to our students. So thank you for that. And with that, I do recommend approval of this specific building renewal grant, specifically BRG 006543. the central cafeteria HVAC terms and conditions as presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second?
I
Any
just have,
any discussion?
sorry, Madam President, I just have a quick question. Last time this aged AC system broke down, how long do we have the temporary ACs in place? Over a month?
I think it was
So,
2 months by the time.
Oh, yeah.
so,
The weather.
so the weather allowed us to stop using as, we had to rent for those things. And that's not cheap. They're big AC. We bought just in case, because we're going to have this problem again potentially, right? So
Oh, that's right.
they had to make it. I just thought I'd ask. So over a month, we were using extra, like ACs. We've all walked into stores and stuff when there's ACs running in there. That's basically what we had to do to cool that place because the system couldn't be repaired.
That's true.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, Tony?
So since I've been called out on
Yeah.
my,
There you go.
I'm just going to take you on a quick walk. In 1970, I would have been in the 5th grade, and that's when the cafeteria was built.
Wow.
And then you look at the age of this building. For the dollar amount that was paid, it was well worth it in the long run. But I will say at that time, we hadn't gone through equalization.
No.
And this community paid for all of this right out of their pocket. That created problems with the state, and we ended up with the school facilities. That,
Because of
at
the
the
inequity.
time that we started looking at construction ahead of town of Sahuarita and building buildings, the thing that was a slap in the face to the board was that we were elected as local control. However, we lost our local control and we lost our standard funding. And the process has gone on for a long enough time. And we've had to learn ways around the system. And earlier, the Vail School District, the reason they went to year-round school was to avoid the school. Because they were tired of fighting this. And found their own way around by doing all year-round school. So I guess my point is, money spent now and well spent now, hopefully will go 40 years. And I am greatly appreciative of the fact that we maintain all of our facilities and our buildings in wherever we can scrounge funds, and I don't mean that in a small sense. And if we can have the state pay for it, I think it's even better. And I greatly appreciate everyone who works on this.
Which makes me just a little bit more perturbed when we talk about equalization and we see the schools that have mold and they don't have clean water. And this is in our state. So I'm very grateful. Thank you for the walk, Tony. It's always appreciated. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number C, Dr. Venezuela.
Yes, ma'am. I believe you are referring to the policy. And again, we're getting through this. I promise. We're going to get through it in the next couple meetings. This is, as the board knows, one of the services we subscribe to is the policy services of the Arizona School Boards Association. And through some of the transitions, legislation, and things that have happened in the past, we're kind of reinforcing, resetting, and updating a lot of these policies that have accumulated over the last probably year or so. But we are getting there. This first one, item 9C, is a policy revision. And the reason it's a revision versus an advisory is because this is one where this board has set its own unique policy that is separate from I guess you'd call it the basic template that's provided for basic legal compliance from ASBA. As you remember, for example, we modified our policy to provide more broad definition of student absence excuses. I think we did that a couple years ago. So we have our own policy. That's why it's set aside. But really, the change that this refers to is one that I believe was mandated for this policy based on legislation. And I think, in essence, it defined an excused absence as inclusive of mental or behavioral health issues, of homelessness, which has always been somewhat protected, had protections under the federal McKinney-Vento Act. But also another one that was added, and I never thought about it, but it's true, is the time necessary to process for the armed forces. You know, when a student is in that process, they have to take a few days. Mr. Rodriguez could probably tell us the specific number where students have to go up for the place I've heard called the MEP Center, the Military Entrance Processing, where they have to have physical exams, interviews and stuff. And so this now allows those days to meet excused absences for young men and women that are pursuing military service to our country. So those are the only changes to this one. However, in line with our standard policy, at this time I would recommend tabling.
We have a recommendation. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I have to say, hopefully we're already doing this and we're just adding these words. I think this is one of those things where I'm like, can we just be kind and help people? I'm just,
No,
it's one of those things we have to put it in policy because somewhere in the state it was a problem.
Well, and I had that conversation this afternoon with Dr. Valenzuela, and because I was going through a whole bunch of these, and I was like, aren't we already doing this? Are we just catching up to state law, or is state law just catching up to us? Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah.
And I think, Ms. Reese, and to your point as well, Dr. Sparks, that several of these are, the only reason we have this lengthy list of advisories is because ASBA and its legal team is doing their due diligence of integrating legislated items into our policies because they are required. But you're right that, to your point about just what we should be doing as a matter of practice, and what is also, some of these are somewhat already in place in our existing policies, was my observation of a theme. So
it makes it consistent with everybody. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to item number D. Dr.
Yes,
Valenzuela.
ma'am. These are policy advisories labeled Volume 36, Number 1. And before I go on, I did want to take a moment to extend appreciation to Betsy for her management of this, because these are presented to us as standard templates from ASBA, but she went through and basically had to individually analyze which ones we had unique special policies so that we don't commingle those two, because you don't want to approve policies that are contradictory, or in one case, due to my fault, we approved the ones that were later first, and the most updated ones we were going to go back and they'd already been updated. We took them out of order, basically. So thank you, Betsy, for that. But this bundle was identified and selected from advisories where we are utilizing the ASBA version. And you have them all in more detail, but for the sake of the public, I'll just kind of highlight. And this is a first read on this bundle. So this is, for example, updates regarding legislatively allowed agenda communications. For example, now we can use email as an appropriate way to communicate, communicate about our board meetings. There's changes in terms of terms and conditions about site councils. They used to be very explicitly laid out. There's been a little relaxation of that, so this reflects that. There's new laws regarding the components and the submission and the management of emergency response plans, and we're paying careful attention to be in compliance. We were doing that already, but now it's required in policy. some things about instructional graduation requirements. A lot of it has to do with, again, things that are largely embedded based on the Arizona Articulated Standards and our curricular programs for things like the teaching of Arizona and state constitution, for example, and things like that that are already in our curricular program. The admission of foster students and cutting through some of the red tape that's normally required, which again, as Scott knows as our McKinney-Vento liaison, is already protected under the provisions of that federal law. But nonetheless, it's in statute in the state, so we need to add that. The time we need to retain disciplinary records and providing notice of how people can access policy manuals. So that's basically a summary of this policy advisories. And again, thanks to Betsy for helping us to clean it up and make it as tight and accurate as it can be and up to date. So with that, I would recommend the tabling of this bundle of policy advisories at this time.
A recommendation, do you have a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Move on to item number E. Dr. Malazan.
Madam President, and Dr. Fonseca, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Is there all of items E, F, and G are second reads of policy updates? Is there a reason why they can't be taken in one single motion?
There actually is, because one of my recommendations, I need to make a strike adjustment.
Okay.
And the other one is unique. And since it was initiated by the board, I'd like to have the board a chance to provide any.
I was trying to make sure. I thought there was a reason, but I was asking because a lot of times we put this. There was 3, and I'm like,
Nope.
Yeah.
you know me.
I'll try and move along expediently as we can. I will say this one, item E, this one is a second reading, so you've seen it before. This is about the board having more latitude on its organizational meeting. The fact that we're required to have adequate seating capacity for people that would like to attend. It again ties into foster students and the issues of student suspensions, that although there are legislatively initiated limits on the ability to suspend younger children, I think up through the 4th grade, there are certain provisions such as weapons where there's more latitude. So with that, at this point, since this has already been tabled, I would recommend approval of policy advisories, volume 35, number 3, which is listed as item E.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, now we're going to move on to item number F.
F, and this is the one that I referenced because it was the one that this governing board, yes, sir, initiated this one. And this is the one that Dr. Sparks initiated, and then after a pretty thoughtful, I thought, dialogue, we modified the policy involving the definition of close relatives and how we apply that to the supervision of staff. And as you may recall, basically what we did is we defined direct supervision as anybody that works in the line of supervision in any particular department or school. So if you have a line of supervision, then that cannot be supervised by somebody who is in the category of a close relative as defined by said policy. And the board also asked for clarification that close relatives under that definition, even if they're not in a supervisory role, should not be in the same subunit of a school, like at the same grade level or in the same department, right? Department like math department, English department, like that. So with that, it has gone through both readings, as Dr. Sparks alluded to. So I would recommend approval of this policy as presented.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We'll move on to item number G.
Item number G, and again, this is one, the reason I bring it up is because it was an ASBA policy advisory. However, if you notice, Betsy inserted the word there, revision, because we realized that, after some discussion here among the board, that in a forward-thinking approach, that it made sense basically to accept the advisory, but to strike the word generative before artificial intelligence because of anticipated changes in the nature of this rapidly changing type of artificial intelligence. So at this time, I would recommend approval of this policy advisory with the noted revision and specifically the striking of the word generative in the verbiage.
And recommendation, do you have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to consent agenda, Dr. Valenzuela.
At last, we've arrived at the consent agenda, and as usual, you have a lengthy list of routine consent matters that may be considered in one comprehensive motion, and that is my recommendations, which is the approval of the consent agenda in its entirety.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion. Is there any discussion?
I just have a quick question. So, there's a title on here I've never seen before.
Oh, what?
Under employment changes, status transfers, there's a title I've never noticed, but it's white bus driver. Are we now requiring white buses to have a designated transportation driver?
White buses.
So there's one of them in employment changes, status
We
transfers.
have bus driver.
There's an individual that says white bus driver. So the white buses that I know of are the ones, I mean, I've taken the certification, I have a little paper, I can drive one, I know how to stop at the railroad tracks, put the brakes on, open the doors, turn the flashes on, like I've done the training, so that I could drive for small groups, right? I did it for Winter Guard one year. But it was we could allow anybody to be trained under that policy, as long as they had a driver's license, were a volunteer, whatever. This now has a specific title of that, and the reason I was concerned about when I saw it was, are we now requiring white buses, which are those little 14-person buses that are buses, but not really big, they're really big vans, that have a floppy door, right? Are they now required to utilize those with the designated transportation provided driver?
No. So the reason that we have the white bus and then / driver is just so that we can have individuals who work at different school sites to then be a driver and be paid as a driver without a CDL.
Thank you. So that's like if someone has, if an IEP has transportation and so someone on a site has to do it?
So like if someone, so we have someone at, I think in this case, there's a person at SMS, and they are able to, we don't have enough drivers,
So
but
if they
yeah, they
wouldn't-
can take, so we can pay them, so then they can take a white bus or even a van,
Okay.
but they don't need the certification of a CDL. We still do the training, like you said.
Yeah.
I have it too, and, driven the white bus, but in this case, it's so that we can allow for individuals in our district to be paid,
Okay.
paid, and while they drive a bus or a van. Is that correct, Mr. Downs?
Makes total sense. You can see why I asked. I was like, are we changing how we do things?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Bruno, thank you so much for your donation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Move on to establish the next board meeting, which is December 11th, here in the district auditorium at 6 p.m. We have no executive session. I just need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.